Okay, just wanted to do a quick video of the anti-sway bar in the rear end hooked up. As you can see, it came with these little brass links there. At least I think they're brass. They might just be some colorized something or another, but anyways, I originally thought that it was going to be kind of way too close to the shock, but as you can see, if I can get the light angled just right and the camera angled just right, there's about I don't know, somewhere between an eighth and 3/16 of an inch of clearance up there. Guess I can't get, there we go, there's the right light angle, so there's plenty of clearance. It's not gonna hit. And found all the hardware. It took me a few minutes to find all the hardware buried in the boxes after I moved. So it hooks up. Those little spacers I found in the box, and so it seems like they work pretty perfect right there, so I guess that's where they go. And found those Allen heads that recessed into there, and here's the other side hooked up. Oops, going this way. But I just kind of pretty much set it up to where it was straight for now. Like if we take a look at it right here, it's pretty well flat, and that gives me a lot of clearance on top and a lot of clearance above the axle tube there, to whereas this wants to do its thing and provide some anti-sway. Doesn't look like it's gonna have any trouble. I've got all kinds of room up there for clearance, and I've got all kinds of clearance above the tube. So it looks like at that setting it should do its job, work pretty well. And then those are just tightened onto the splined end with those I think they're grade 10 Allen bolts. I tightened them pretty good, and they got lock washers, or sorry, nylock nuts on them. So yeah, anti-sway bar all hooked up. Entire rear end's good to go now, but I think I'm gonna actually change out my studs to 1/2 inch studs, because this thing's gonna have probably anywhere from 700 to 1200 horsepower when the motor's all done and everything. So definitely don't want the studs to be a weak point there. And a couple of them were dinged up from shipping, so I just had Curry ship me an entire set of 1/2 inch, and so I was going to work on seeing if I could get those out without pulling the axles, because that would be convenient. I don't know if I can get them all that way, but I'll try. And then work on getting the new one set in there. I was thinking I was just gonna use basically use a lug nut, and as you see I already got one pulled. I just tapped it out of there with a hammer. It was a really bad one. But I was thinking I would just basically use some washers and a lug nut, and then just suck them up in there with the impact gun or something, and then they'll be good to go. So that's what I'm gonna work on next, changing out those studs, and then I'll get the rear wheels put on. You can see that way, put the front wheels on already, and they are 1/2 inch studs. So I asked for 1/2 inch studs all the way around, and I guess they must have forgot that part. So not very many complaints overall with the quality of this TCI frame and suspension. Everything seems to be exactly what it was supposed to be. Pretty happy with it. One thing I did notice is if you tighten those bolts very much right there, it is extremely squeaky when you actually move the suspension up and down. So I would recommend just let this nylock do its job, only just kind of barely snug those down. I even threw a little bit of some Chevron black pearl grease on the rubber in between there, on all of them. And it seemed to help prevent it from squeaking. Nobody wants a brand new nice suspension system to sound like a crappy squeaky car, so just a little tip there. And I did it up on those front ones as well, where the links go in. The only one I'm kind of worried about is right here. I might need to drag the light over here. That one, as you can see, is right next to the frame rail. So I actually had to cut the nylock off of that nut. I didn't have a nut without it just to put on there. And so I just trimmed that nut off to where it would fit up inside of there right next to the frame rail. So it no longer has any nylock, and it could back out. So I'm just going to keep an eye on those, and those are real easy to see because it's just right behind the tire basically. That's actually the closest point to rubbing your wheel on this entire suspension setup, is that right there. And I'm actually thinking about rounding all this off, or even finding myself like a hardened pin or something. I have a lot of those types of things around at work that I throw away and stuff, but basically it's just a real flat, maybe like 1/8 of an inch pin that it'll have two flat sides so you can still get a wrench on it. And then the pin on the other side usually has a hole. This is for oil filled stuff, but it will, if you can see there, it will usually have a hole for a castle nut style, where you throw a castle nut on there and then throw a keeper or a pin, split pin through that hole. I think I'm going to end up going with that later on when I find the right length one, and that'll make my life a lot easier. Then I can take away another maybe 1/4 inch or so of clearance for my tire, because as you can see, I mean, I've got a whole bunch of room for more tire until I hit this bracket, and then this bolt adds quite a bit more out. So taking that away or down to a minimal amount with one of those pins would give me another, probably, I would even say almost 3/8 of an inch clearance if I went with one of those pins. And my tires that I have now don't even come close to touching it, so I'm fine. And those are pretty wide, as you can see. They're about 12 inches wide, 305s. So, you know, it'll probably be all right, and I could probably fit 10.5 slicks on there if that's what I want to use for a drag tire, and keep these for a street tire. These are my rear street tires there, as it's rolling away. So, yep, turned out to be a longer video than I thought. And if you want to see the rest of the build, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.